Letters to a Young Therapist, Chapter 9, Metaphor, April 16th. Dear Laura, last night an unseasonable blizzard blew into Lincoln. The day before, the temperatures had soared into the 50s and the sky glistened robin's egg blue. As I cut grasses and raked, I could hear geese moving north in their sinuous V's and a cardinal in my crabapple tree. But this morning I can only hear a crow cawing. We'll have to relocate our snow shovel. Spring is hope, birth, and the return of joy. All humans, not just poets, are metaphor-generating creatures. My dad referred to rich people as prosperous as Baptist bootleggers. My Aunt Margaret called television manure garnished with parsley. My neighborhood once described his son, who is preternaturally lucky, as falling in a bucket of pig slop and coming out wearing a new suit. Nietzsche wrote, "Truth is a mobile army of metaphors." Good therapists keep a toolbox filled with well-polished metaphors. Life can be compared to a book, a dance, a journey, a day, a pop quiz, a song, climbing a ladder, a feast, a jail sentence, or a garden. In my opinion, life is best not likened to war or sports, much overused comparisons that distort our worldviews. They frame life as competitive, violent, and about winning and losing. While partly true, it's not the most helpful way to frame the human experience. From the beginning, I used the metaphor of a cut finger to discuss the importance of allowing oneself to experience feelings. I would say to a middle-aged banker ashamed of his tears, "If you cut your finger, it bleeds. You may not like blood, but it is the way healthy bodies deal with wounds." When talking to a high-achieving but unhappy professor, I might say, "You can get all A's and still flunk life." To an executive who is making $500,000 a year but facing an angry family and sullen employees, I might steal Lily Tomlin's line, "You can win the rat race and still be a rat." I tell a factory worker who lives with her brain-damaged father, "You are a flower in the desert. You only need a little rain to blossom into all your beauty. You're strong and self-reliant, but rain would help." To a person about to make a big mistake, I say, "If you jump off that cliff, I'll stay in contact. We can have some great talks as you fall, but I can't stop you from crashing and burning at the bottom of the valley." Metaphors fall flat on their faces with some clients. Once, with a rather concrete thinker, I compared life to a journey. He responded by saying, "I can't afford a vacation this year." Refugees and others for whom English is a second or third language also easily get lost with metaphors. Even a metaphor as simple as "life is a bed of roses" can lead to questions such as, "Do Americans sleep on flowers?" Some of my metaphors are hokey or trite, but the best are like pebbles whose rough spots smooth down over the years. They grow rounder and more simply true. I am thinking about your client's dream that he was in a canoe, pulled under water by a shark that held the tow line in his teeth. You did a fine job analyzing that dream, which has the potential to be an extended metaphor. Your client is experiencing a rough patch right now, and his little boat is about to be pulled under in spite of his efforts to paddle. Metaphorically, he is surrounded by sharks. Solutions can be couched in terms such as, "You are managing to outswim the sharks," or "You see an island up ahead." Dreams often provide economical metaphors. I'm no expert in dream work, and I generally encourage clients to do their own interpretation. I invite them to speak for all the characters in their dreams. I ask how they feel about events in their dreams and what real-life events come to mind as they describe their feelings. Words spoken aloud in dreams are often deeply symbolic, and I suggest clients say them out loud and interpret them for me. Natalie, an English major in her late 20s, hadn't found work or peer relationships that were sustaining. She had recurring dreams in which she couldn't walk. Sometimes the floors were covered in oil or glue. Other times her legs were rubbery or paralyzed, or she was wearing iron boots or was tied to a stone. Often in her dreams she would shout, "I can't walk." This succinct metaphor became shorthand for us to discuss her situation. As Natalie found her way in life, her dreams reflected that progress. In fact, They were yardsticks for the distance she was moving toward her goals. Another client, Arthur, was chronically ineffectual with an ever-growing pile of unpaid bills, parking tickets, and unanswered letters. He lost jobs, girlfriends, and car keys. He schlepped through his life, either pondering decisions too long or not at all. Opportunity not only passed him by, it ran circles around him. Arthur described himself as a man with no hands. My assignment for Arthur was keep a record of every time this week that you use your hands. 7-year-old Martha, a victim of sexual abuse in her family, called herself a broken teddy bear. She said, "My stuffing has fallen out. I'm dirty and no one wants me." You know your metaphors are working when clients embellish them to describe their own experience. By the end of therapy, conversations may mostly be metaphorical. I can ask, "Did you work with your hands this week? Is your canoe above water?" Clients can say, "I had a dream of walking," or "My teddy bear has new friends." Families often select objects to represent them. The way these totemic items are treated is the way families treat themselves. Our neighbor's old Cocker Spaniel is half blind, lame, and irritable, but he is admired, coddled, and much discussed because he is who all family members love in common. Foods such as barbecue and pie are often metaphors for love. Recently, I saw an older woman board a plane carrying an angel food cake with chocolate frosting. She held it on her lap for our cross-country flight. She told me, "This cake was baked with love." Once I saw a family who discussed all issues, love, control, and distance, in terms of cars. We spent hours negotiating who could drive which car where. I wanted to shout, "Could you talk about something besides who washed the car on Sunday? Could you debate anything but your son's speeding?" I tried to direct the family into more important issues. Finally, I realized they were already there. The discussions about who drove what to work or who bought gas were about power, responsibility, and sharing. When these issues were properly resolved, family problems were solved. When straightforward language starts arguments, or when language cannot touch what's most important, it's time to move to metaphors. Metaphors possess a fill-in-the-blank quality that allows for more creative responses. As with all power tools, metaphors must be used carefully. Make sure they have the effect of lightening your client's loads and making problems more manageable. Don't compare a harsh remark by an in-law to murder. Compare it to a pebble in a sock. And keep your metaphors fresh. Dead words smell bad. Watch out and don't use the same metaphors too many times with the same clients. I actually keep notes on the metaphors I have used and the ones clients generate. Once I employed the "when you cut your finger it bleeds" metaphor twice or maybe 3 times with the same client. To my chagrin, she flashed me a look of impatience. I never remember reading anything about metaphors when I was in graduate school, but over the years I have found them to be indispensable tools. My advice is look for your clients' metaphors and generate some of your own. Assign yourself the task of generating 3 metaphors a day. Borrow mine and turn to poets for more exquisite ones. Let me know how the sinking canoe among sharks works out for you. I can see the snow melting from my study window. My crocuses, like Easter eggs, shimmer purple, yellow, and lavender against the snow. My eyes crave the daffodil's first salute. Flowers poking through snow answer Einstein's most important question: is the universe a friendly place or not? Chapter 10, Endurance. April 20th. Dear Laura, last night I had another book tour nightmare. I dreamt I was at an airport on my way to a speech and had forgotten my ticket. At first I wasn't too upset. That lapse could be remedied by telling the airline clerk my destination. But as I approached the desk, I couldn't remember where I was going. I was pawing through my briefcase looking for any scrap of paper that would enlighten me as to my destination. I woke up with my heart racing and the taste of metal in my mouth. I am in the middle of a tour, home for Easter weekend. After weeks of flying from city to city, speeches every night, and room service meals, I am slowly putting my life back together. The taste of my own cooking delights me. I love writing books, but I don't much care for what I need to do to help sell them. There are two kinds of writers, extroverts and introverts. The extroverts relish the tours but must bully themselves into their offices to write. The introverts love being alone at their desks but dread the tours. Guess which category I'm in. Book tours are like going through your wedding day over and over again. Like a bride, a writer is surrounded by admirers in a way that is both stressful and exhilarating. Except, unlike the bride, a writer is badly dressed, running late, jet lagged, and hungry. From my point of view, it is no accident that travel and travail come from the same root word. I'm not a road warrior, and I grow anxious about everything. Icy runways, lost luggage, car alarms in the middle of the night, and interviews with people who haven't read my books. But as Winston Churchill said, when you are going through hell, keep going. Humans encounter three kinds of problems. Problems like speech phobias or unruly children are usually solvable with information and effort. Others, such as eating disorders or entrenched marital problems, require sophisticated solutions. And finally, there are problems that are simply not solvable. A child who will not reconcile with a loving family, or the physical and mental health suffering of old age. With the first kind of problem, we therapists can often be motivators. Let's teach you how to do timeouts with your toddler and set up a star chart for rewarding good behavior. With the second, we can be outside the box thinkers. Maybe if every time you are tempted to binge, you play some Chopin and think of every country in the world you would like to visit. When you meet problem 3, it's time for endurance training. The capacity to tolerate pain and sorrow is an underappreciated virtue. We teach our clients to process their pain, to ask for help, and to look for solutions, all appropriate lessons at times. But when things are truly hopeless, it is best to speak of other things. During the Great Depression, our great-aunts didn't discuss their flat pocketbooks and empty kitchen shelves. Explorers in the Antarctic need not mention that it's cold. When the ship is going down, passengers gain nothing by screaming, "We are all going to die!" In hard times, helpfulness, good cheer, dignity, and forbearance emerge as stellar virtues. When my grandmother was dying of cancer, I complimented her on her bravery and interest in others. She replied, "However I behave, I'm going to die soon. Complaining won't stop the pain. I might as well have the satisfaction of handling this with dignity." No virtue is absolute. Too much endurance in one family member allows others to be slackers and induces martyrdom. But we can encourage clients to assess a situation realistically, do what they can, and then accept what they cannot. That is really what AA's Serenity Prayer encourages. God grant me the serenity to accept what I cannot change, the courage to change what I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Of course, Laura, many of our clients have much harder things to endure than book tours. Your client Dana comes home from her job in customer service to a difficult teenage son and a brain-damaged mother who demands total attention. Caught between them, her whole life is customer service. You can encourage Dana to weep and to tell you her feelings, and you can give her tips on caring for herself. But mainly, you'll be teaching her that, to quote Tennessee Williams, we endure by enduring. A man once asked Abe Lincoln what should be engraved on an honorary plaque for his office. The man wanted Lincoln to furnish words of wisdom that would be helpful in all circumstances. Lincoln thought about it for a while, then said, "This too shall pass." Chapter 11, Self-Care, April 27th. Dear Laura, this morning a colleague called to tell me he is leaving our profession. At first, Carl laughed and said he planned to open a bait shop, but then he said he was worn down. During sessions, his mind wandered to his morning's conversation with the wife, what to have for lunch, and places to go fishing. He caught himself looking at his watch. Even though Carl has a PhD in clinical psychology, he planned to mow lawns, shovel snow, and help people clean their gutters. Carl isn't the first person I've known to bow out of our business. Most of us feel grateful we can be therapists, but every year some of us leave for something less intense. And there are some therapists who should leave and don't. They are burned out but stay in the business due to inertia. I feel sorry for them and for their clients. Talking to Carl reminded me I wanted to tell you some things about protecting yourself that no one told me when I was a graduate student. Taking care of yourself is partly a matter of practicing what you preach. It's hard to coach someone on quitting smoking if you reek of tobacco. You can't be a good parent or a good therapist if your message is, do what I say, not what I do. Take care of your brain. Therapy is not work we can phone in. Once I tried to do therapy after I had been up all night at a concert in Kansas City. All day long, I stifled yawns and fought back nap attacks with caffeine and sugar. My clients that day didn't receive their money or their time's worth. Of course, everyone has nights of sick children or noisy neighbors, but we can avoid attending rock concerts on weeknights. My husband Jim says, never operate a chainsaw or do psychotherapy without a good night's sleep. For every hour Charles Dickens wrote, he walked an hour. That's not practical for therapists, but we do need to move whenever we can. I have one colleague who chops wood after work, and another who rides her horse daily. Many of us are what Jung called wounded healers. We have mental illness in our families or trauma in our own backgrounds. Certainly, we can help others without being self actualized, but if we're too needy, we don't have enough to give. I could fill a book with advice, but my thoughts can be summed up in 3 words: have a life. Have relationships and interests besides your work. Do things that make you laugh and recharge your batteries. Snuggle with a baby, take a cooking class, or join a theater group. Because we spend our days talking and thinking, it's good to have off hours filled with tactile pleasures. Yoga and meditation reconnect us with our bodies and relax tense muscles. Therapy is so damn ambiguous that we need to see a finished product now and then, a quilt, an oil painting, or a refinished oak desk. Jim often leaves the office and roars across town to the zoo bar, where he jumps on the stage with his guitar and sings to a crowd that included the very people he has seen in his office that day. He lovingly refers to the zoo bar as the place where clients and therapists collide to boogie to the blues. Being a psychotherapist is no Caribbean cruise with bonbons and bourbon. Daily we deal with suicidal clients, hassles with managed care providers, and worries about abused and neglected children. For me, the hardest work is being present when couples decide to divorce. Absorbing all of their pain absolutely wastes me. If we don't find good ways to cope with stress, we will suffer from bad ways. So identify half a dozen things you can do to soothe yourself. During my years in private practice, my office partners gave me advice and sympathy. If I needed to talk, they listened. Whenever I was too intense or anxious, they would figure out a way to get me laughing. We had weekly staff meetings and yearly retreats where we addressed big questions. Why are we doing this work? Do we still enjoy it? How could we do it better? When Jim and I opened our practice, we chose to limit the number of hours we worked. We saw ourselves as exhaustible resources, but resources that needed careful management in order to keep our therapy energy sustainable. We weren't big shoppers and could live on less money than many other people. We closed up the office when our kids had a swim meet or violin recital. We consistently valued time more than money, and we were careful about selling our time. I'm definitely not recommending you do what we did. We've been teased about our clunky old furniture, see-through towels, and bargain basement outfits. Most people don't like to drive cars with 150,000 miles on them. Our luxuries have always been experiences, not products. We like restaurants, concerts, and vacations. I'm saying to be intentional about what you do. Don't let your schedule just happen to you. Hold to a reasonable number of clients per day. I found my limit to be 6, but I have known some therapists, tougher than I, who claimed they could do 8 hours of therapy a day. Make sure you don't have too many DCs or difficult customers on your caseload. Remember, you can always say no. Don't let flattery seduce you into taking on a case when you are already full. Referral sources will press you to work more. They will cajole, I don't trust anyone but you to handle this important case. If your caseload is full, the right response is no, no, no. Follow the code of ethics to keep both your license and your sanity. Don't see anyone even remotely connected with your life outside therapy. Don't give your relatives IQ tests or administer a personality inventory to your cousin. Don't diagnose and label the neighbors. You aren't an expert with the people you love. You can screw up a perfectly good friendship by being therapeutic. Don't be persuaded into fulfilling inappropriate requests from clients. Don't meet clients for lunch, buy Amway products from them, or hire them to babysit or remodel your house. What makes the relationship so powerful is that there are no strings attached, so don't attach any. Laura, this advice can be hard to follow. The only thing harder is not to follow it. The stakes are high in our work. Mistakes can cost lives. If we don't care for ourselves, we can become as depressed, anxious, or angry as our clients. Please think carefully about how to protect, replenish, and enjoy yourself as a therapist. I don't want you selling bait and shoveling snow 10 years from now.